I can't believe in this past 2-minute span you just gave us an impression from an orange juicer to the entire Wizard of Oz. So that's I can't. Just you're such a delight, John. Thank you. This is
Well, thank God, because I wouldn't have got through high school otherwise. I mean,
Hey everybody, welcome to Talkulture. I am Kid Cadet, and look who is joining me tonight. I'm so excited. My co-host, it's Ace Johnson. What's up, Ace?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good, hanging in there. Just excited for the show. We're about to start.
Yes, and before we do get started, I of course want to mention you are getting ready to go back on the road with the LA Gun. So when do you leave for tour, Ace?
Tour starts June 1st, but we've got some preemptive rehearsals and bric-a-brac to handle beforehand, so sooner than later.
Good old brick and brack. That's
Exactly.
Super fun to say. Well, I know Ace is excited. I am so excited. So we're going to bring to the stream at this time the one, the only John Kassir.
Hello, creeps. Am I coming in loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Greatest
Hey, Ace.
intro ever.
Yeah, how are you?
How you doing, kid? I'd give you 1 second to say hey to Ace. It's been a while since we've seen each other, man. It's really
Yeah, what convention was that? I was trying to think earlier.
It's a ways back. I don't know.
Rock and Shock, maybe? I can't remember.
Maybe, it's been a number of years since I've been there, so it may have been, but yeah, we had a good time, as I remember.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I was blessed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, before we got started, Ace was mentioning that you guys have crossed paths before at conventions, so this is a wonderful, nice little reunion. So
Yes, homecoming.
Where are the shock tails?
Oh my gosh, this is like literally giving me chills. Well, John, we're so excited to have you. This is amazing. So I guess kind of getting started, we wanted to know what you were like in high school, because from what we read, we know that you like to do impressions. So what were you like in high school, and what were some of your favorite impressions to do?
Oh man, well, it's funny that you say that, because not a lot of people ask me that, but that's a natural question. In the yearbook where they have those things they call senior superlatives.
Yes.
It's like I want to be best looking or best dressed. I'm tired of being class clown. And I was always class clown, because it's funny, from the time I was a little kid I wanted to be a professional athlete, and I was I played lacrosse all through college and high school, and played football until I never grew past 135 pounds and got my ass kicked and all that shit. So, it was a natural progression for me to be a performer. From the time I was a little kid, I used to do, like circuses in my basement, where kids could get in for a penny and I'd charge them a nickel for the penny candy. Like the way the movie theaters make money.
Right.
I'd pretend to walk on my mother's clothesline. It would be on the floor, but I'd be walking on. I pretended I was tightrope walking, and I pretend to be on a unicycle. And the kids loved it. All the kids in my neighborhood loved it. We'd dress up like clowns and do, get our riding lawnmowers and do parades on the 4th of July and shit like that. But, I went full into it by the time I was in high school, got involved with all the high school productions. And my good friend, I don't know if he's watching, my dear friend, Fred Smythe, if any of my friends from high school are watching, they would know that Fred and I ruled in terms of class clowns around we like on senior dress up day, we'd dress up like, female superheroes and cut class, and we'd go by people's doorways and they go, there they are again. We'd crawl up into the catwalks of the school and, drop ourselves down into rooms we weren't supposed to be in and stuff. But ultimately, Fred and I had developed, we started doing the morning announcements, and Miss Hank, who was in charge of the office, would let us come in and do our morning announcement. Doing the morning announcements, it'd be like, the following morning announcement brought to you by a grant from the Mobile Corporation, and we'd be the Beatles, or we'd imitate teachers, And eventually people would catch on and they go, hey, we'll give you tickets to the dance, or, the special gymnast troupe that was coming in or something like that. If we did, plugged whatever it was on the morning announcements. And that was kind of like my intro to doing voiceover stuff. And so, of course, those were the imitations we would do. And then Fred and I would, of course, the natural progression from there was to enter the talent shows in high school. And he would roll me out on a dolly like I was like a 3-in-1 machine or something. And, I'd be an orange juicer, and, all this different stuff, kind of like Burns and Shriver, kind of stuff. And then we would do, and then I used to do the entire version of the Wizard of Oz. And I think it's probably started out, it was originally like 12 minutes long. By the time I was doing it on Star Search or whatever, I had to cut it down to 2.5 minutes, so, but, it's a twister. Dorothy, as coroner, I must concur. I thoroughly examined her, and she's not only merely dead, but truly and sincerely dead. Oh, Rio, yo. What's them? That's the castle of the Wicked Witch. Oh, Dorothy's in that awful place. Oh, I hate to think of her in there. Fellas, we've got to get her out. I got a plan how to get in there, and you're going to lead us. All right, I'll go in there for Dorothy. Wicked Witch or no Wicked Witch, gods or no gods, just one thing I want you fellas to do. What's that? Talk me out of it. Anyway.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Okay. That was pretty much the, cutting my teeth on, what people would be like, shut up, John, you get out of our face. You go until, I started making a career out of it. And then they were like, hey, can I have your autograph?
I can't believe in this past 2-minute span, you just gave us an impression from an orange juicer to the entire Wizard of Oz. So that's, I can't, you're such a delight, John. Thank you.
Well, thank God, because I wouldn't have got through high school otherwise. I mean, I totally didn't. I was dyslexic as a little kid, and they didn't even know what that was when I was in 3rd grade. And by the time I had my 2nd year of 3rd grade, I figured how to get through school. I had teachers who were really good enough to say, you know what, he does it really well if he does it up in front of the class, or he does it really well if he does it orally for me, does his test out loud and that kind of thing. And, and it helped me get through school. It helped me get through, also develop the talents that I was given, that I could feel confident doing. And, I figured the rest out as time went by, how to research things. Do you remember? You guys are too young to remember the Dewey Decimal System.
Of course, we know the Dewey Decimal.
Of course, you remember. That was a nightmare for me. I had no idea what it was, what you were supposed to do with it. Like, you pull out these little drawers and look through the cards, and I was like, it was frightening to me. They might as well have told me. To here, take apart this computer and then put it back together.
Well, that's we're using the Dewey Decimal System every day, I'm sure.
Yes,
right?
very.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
All the time.
Exactly.
The Pythagorean theorem.
Yeah. That my algebra. Yes.
Yeah. Same. So we're talking about you being a young man. So what, growing up around that age, what were some of your fandoms? Were you into horror movies or comic books or anything like that?
Oh, well, first of all, I was totally into Tales from the Crypt comic books. I mean, which was ironic that I wound up playing the Cryptkeeper. I think one of the reasons that I got it when I went in and auditioned for Kevin Yeager in his studio, which I was totally fanboying out. I was already established, but I was fanboying out and going into his studio where he had, like Chucky that he had made and Freddy Krueger, and he had, like some of his clay sculptures that he was working on that were just amazing, to get to, and that's what the original Cryptkeeper looked like that he was working on.
Yeah.
And and I created the voice based on that. But it was funny to see all these other actors looking at the scripts with the puns going, be careful what you ask for, you may get it. And they're going, this is terrible. And I was like, dude, didn't you ever read the comic books? This is Shakespeare. This is like EC comic gold, you know? Yeah. Be careful what you ask for. You may get it. You know, so, I mean, the comic books were big. Yeah, I used to order stuff out of the back of the comic book. I don't know if you remember it, but you used to be able to get like, I never ordered this, but they would have like a monkey in a teacup. You know, you could order like a miniature monkey, or, you know, the 2-man submarine, or, you know, I had the
X-ray specs or whatever.
X-ray specs, you know, pepper gum. I don't know, you know, it's like, but you know, I remember ordering the 6-foot tall Frankenstein,
which was like for your door.
Yeah, totally. That was my favorite Frankenstein. Forget it. The Universal horror monster movies, you know, because they didn't have, you know, when I was a kid, they didn't have the, you know, VCR. They didn't have a VCR. They didn't have any streaming. They didn't have any way to see anything other than to pick up, you know, the TV guide and see what was going to be playing that week. And they used, in Baltimore, where I grew up, they had something called Twilight Movie. I think it came on around 4:30 or something, which means my mom would have been in the kitchen making dinner, and I would get in front of that TV set to see what came on, and they would have, you know, Doris Day movies and stuff like that. But on certain days, they would have all the sci-fi stuff, you know, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, Mothra, and then they'd have all the Roger Corman stuff, like, you know, The Tingler, House of Wax, you know, all the, you know, Edgar Allan Poe. And of course, coming from Baltimore, you know, Edgar Allan Poe was like, you know, I grew up in an area called Loch Raven, and it was called Loch Raven because of the Raven of Edgar Allan Poe, which a lot of people don't know this, but that's why the Baltimore Ravens are called the Baltimore Ravens.
No way.
Yeah. It was just kind of dark and cool, right?
Very. Did you have a favorite Universal monster, John?
Frankenstein for sure. You know, I mean, it's just like I wanted bolts in the side of my neck. You know, it's like I think my favorite comedy was Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. You know, when I was a kid. Yeah. But yeah, definitely.
Oh, what a great movie. Yeah, I was going to start quoting the movie, but I'll
here's a quote from it.
You know.
Oh yeah, you're talking about. Oh yeah, you know, they have the scene where like Frankenstein has been shipped, and they open the box and it has all the packing material around it. Yeah. And I was like, Mom, you can order Frankenstein. I got to get Frankenstein. You know, I believed it. And of course, I did wind up ordering him in that, you know, the cutout, which I swear would get closer to my bed in the middle of the night. You know, you know, I don't know if it was my brother or what. You never do.
Could have been the real thing. You never know.
You never know. You never know. Well, okay. So since you did mention that you did read the comics, and you also talked a little bit about how you developed the voice, we wanted to know: do you have any favorite puns from the Cryptkeeper? Because there, like you mentioned, there's so many.
Oh,
but any that you quote on a daily?
Not on a daily, no. You know, it's funny because, you know, with Cameo and that kind of thing, you get a lot of requests, you know, because it had been years since I've had you know, talk as the Cryptkeeper on my feet, you know, other than going to a convention and doing Q&As or that kind of thing. And I don't really do stand-up anymore, you know, unless it's a charity event, or I guess the closest thing to it is doing Q&As at a convention or something, where I get to get up in front of people and make them laugh and tell them stories about, you know, working on the show and that kind of thing. But ask me the question again.
Favorite puns.
Favorite puns. But I digress. 6 feet down, I digress. You know, but doing cameos now and stuff, I is the first time since, you know, back when the show was on the air, we'd launch a new season and I would have to do like 50 radio shows as the Cryptkeeper, you know, on drive time, starting from the East Coast, and you know, as it became 8 o'clock or whatever across the United States, I'd be doing all these radio shows, and I do like 50 of them in 2 days, and it was all as the Cryptkeeper. So I'd have like a bunch of puns that I had jotted down from all the seasons and stuff like that. But the rest of them, I was just, you know, kind of, because we had great writers on the show. I mean, coming up with puns that work. isn't always easy, especially when somebody comes to you and goes, well, you're going to be introducing this hockey team this week, and they've written some really bad puns that just don't work, so now I have, trying to come up with people's personal requests for cameo has been fun. I have some go-to ones, and they get some of those, and then each person I try to come up with something specific for whatever information they've given me about the person that I'm sending the cameo to, or that kind of thing. And I always loved to be the master of ceremonies. This was always a good one. And but I remember as the seasons went along, Gil Adler and Alan Katz, who wrote most of the Cryptkeeper sequences, would we get into the studio to record stuff, and I just crack them up doing the Cryptkeeper as Howard Stern, or the Cryptkeeper as Marlon Brando in A Streetcar Named Desire, Stella, and the next thing I know, they were writing it into the show. And one week I was like, I love a ghoul who'll give you a head and then let you keep it. And they were like, I'm like, there's no way they're using that. Of course, it wound up in the show the next week. They had the Cryptkeeper. They had him in bed, with a box of chocolates, a heart-shaped box of chocolates in his lap. And he puts his arm around the girl, a skeletal girl, and her head falls in his lap. And he delivers that line, I love a girl who'll give you head and then let you keep it. And I was like, that's awesome. So that's always been one of my favorites for that reason.
That's brilliant.
Noted.
I love those opening sequences, and that one definitely stands out.
They hold up. They hold up. I think it's the thing, for me, loving the comic book, and people. There's still people that love the show that never even have delved into the comics, or even, I run into people occasionally. They're like, "What? It was a comic book?" It's like, yes, in the 50s and 60s, and the look of all those horror films all came out of those comic books. Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Vault, Two-Fisted Tales, and all that kind of thing. We used some of the comics for the actual, storyboards, for the look of certain episodes and that kind of thing. You'd take a frame from the comic book and they'd try to make the shot look just like that, because they didn't have a big budget. Like, you could see the set behind me, that was a carved set, but everything else would have been like, if they needed Spanish moss, it would be cut out Spanish moss hanging in front of us like this, and it would give depth of field to the shot. And they were doing old school stuff that they could afford to do with no money. And they had brilliant people working on the show. Everybody wanted to work with these guys. It was the biggest producers in the business, Joel Silver and Richard Donner and Walter Hill and Bob Zemeckis and David Giler, who produced Alien. We just had an amazing group of people. So they got amazing group of people. Todd Masters did all the effects on the show. Of course, Kevin Yeager. The puppeteers were amazingly talented guys. These guys had worked on Jurassic Park and stuff. We didn't have anybody who didn't know what the hell they were doing, and Gil Adler, who I still, he's in Vancouver these days, and we Zoom every, couple of weeks, he and his wife, with my wife and I, and we laugh our asses off, had a blast doing the show along with Alan Katz and Jack Wall, who was our guy, who his job was to find gigs for the Cryptkeeper outside the show. It's like Bud Light commercials, the Cryptmas album,
Oh yeah.
So there was so many creative things that they did with it, but having it come from the comic book and having that, all that feel to it. If you look at any of modern day horror movies or the old ones, they don't even know that they were influenced from those comic books in the look of them and the type of monsters. How many monsters you pick up a comic book and go, oh my God, that's the same monster from, whatever, Swamp Thing or whatever, which was years and years later. So it's pretty impressive. There's a great DVD along with the first season of Tales from the Crypt on box set, on DVD box sets. The first season has a DVD behind the screams, and it has a really great DVD that talks about the show from comic book to movies, in the 70s when they did the 3-episode movie to the TV series to back to feature films with Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood and Rituals. So it's really interesting. They interview a lot of the different people involved with the creating of the show and that kind of thing, and talk about how the comic books were banned, and they got the reason there are age codes and on comic books today, moral codes on them are because of the EC Comics.
Yeah, which is interesting because the E originally stood for, I think, educational, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think, obviously, speaking of Tales from the Crypt, it's pretty well known that Danny Elfman composed the theme song. Do you have any other favorite theme songs from anything else you've worked on, or just in general?
Oh, geez. There was that era where you used to be able to pick up, order now all the theme songs of all the shows you loved, because we all grew up with them. I mean, it was funny because, we used to have competitions quoting not only theme songs, but also like commercial songs for commercials. Double your pleasure, double your fun with Doubleman, all those different, I mean, what's the Stronger Than Dirt, I mean, it's the, the Doors used it at the end of their song, I mean, it's like we had, so those composers are brilliant. I mean, I've worked with a lot of composers over the years in a lot of different productions, and a lot of them started out doing that kind of thing. I worked with Lynn Ahrens and Steve Flaherty, who wrote Ragtime for Broadway.
Wow.
And they wrote Anastasia and the Rocky musical and I mean, all these great musicals. And I worked on one called The Glorious Ones with them. And I was like, Lynn, how'd you get your start? She goes, I used to write jingles for, commercials and stuff. I mean, that's how they started, it's just like, it's amazing to see where that comes from. But I guess I used to really like the ones, branded. What do you do when you're branded? Do you remember that one? But we used to change the words to them, stranded on the toilet bowl. What do you do when you're stranded and you can't reach the roll? Wherever you go, all the people will know from the smell. Stranded, I mean, it's like, so you remember those for all the wrong reasons, right?
Oh yeah, just from my youth. Yeah.
How about you? Do you have being a musician? Because some of them are pretty kind of fun, It's
I never really thought about it, and it's interesting the path we're going down, because as of this year, I just recently started. I got hired to write my first jingle. My first composition for a TV show, and then now I'm doing cues, like background music over, conversations and whatnot. So now I'm listening to anything I hear, even the intro music to the show today, going like, what are they doing? What's going on here? So, but favorite, I guess my go-to would be like probably Gilligan's Island. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just a tale of a trip that started from this tropic board aboard this tiny ship.
Yeah. The mate, jumping to the mate was a mighty sailor man, skipper brave and sure. I don't remember
passengers that sailed that day on a 3-hour tour.
3-hour tour.
Hey, listen, Danny Elfman lived down the street from me for a number of years. I lived for 31 years in Topanga. And if anybody knows Topanga Canyon, it was like the place where all the hippies moved out of Hollywood when it got too busy. They moved from Laurel Canyon to Topanga. And to this day, it's just, swing a dead coyote and you'll hit a musician out there. Yeah. And a lot of them, as good as they were at writing their own music and stuff, they were making their bread and butter, writing, composing music for TV shows and stuff like that. And, Hans Zimmer and these kind of guys who did music for our show as well. We had Ry Cooder do music for Tales from the Crypt. I mean, we had some really great composers do music for the show. And, these guys would get stuff doled out to them by Hans or whoever was so busy they couldn't do a lot of it themselves.
Yeah.
So, but
it's a great we call it side hustle. I mean, to go that way,
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool because this year Danny Elfman actually performed at Coachella, which was maybe a little unique and unusual, but he had a full symphony orchestra, and he was like conducting the Simpsons theme and Batman. I'm like, that would be the one thing that would get me out to the desert, would be to see Danny Elfman.
That's awesome.
Oh gosh, what an absolute legend. Well, speaking of musicals, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Reefer Madness. So, I mean,
Pasta, Sally, pasta.
I love it. How'd you wanna?
You'd make a great Sally.
Oh my! It would be probably my dream role. Yeah, that and Audrey from Little Shop would.
Oh, totally. There you go.
But did you have any idea that Reefer Madness, first obviously as a stage production, and then the film? Did you have any idea that it would become this huge cult phenomenon?
No, in fact, I almost turned it down. And it wasn't because I didn't want to do it. It's just because I was really busy at the time when they approached me. Obviously, when we were kids, they'd show us Reefer Madness. By then it had already become a joke, because it was originally called Tell Your Children, and it was a cautionary tale about about the horrors of, and back then, of course, they were also, making hemp illegal and all these things because, William Randolph Hearst owned all the newspapers. So he bought up all the paper mills, and he had so much, he got his brother-in-law, Harry Anslinger, to be got appointed as the drug czar for the United States. Of course, he went after all these, marijuana and hemp and all this stuff just to protect, Monsanto. I mean, not Monsanto. DuPont had just, come up with polyester and shit. So there was a lot of reasons why, they were going after marijuana back then. And, so the people that were making that movie, some of them, I mean, we met Thelma, who played May in the original movie, and she came down to see our production in a little theater that we were doing in Hollywood. And she was like, some of us knew that this was a farce, and then it was just part of the RKO library when it was purchased. Or whatever library it was, maybe it was RKO that took it over. I don't remember the exact details, but when it was taken over, they saw this movie in their library and they go, "What do we do with this?" So they go, "Well, let's go shoot some, let's go shoot some other scenes and we'll turn it into a, exploitation film." And, but when I was in elementary school and stuff, they were showing it to us as a serious film. And, we were laughing our asses off at it, of course. And Andy Fickman, who was the director of the musical, not only on stage, but also in, the movie, who now is directed Heathers, which is now also become was off-Broadway, and now it's a hit in London, and they're going to be doing a movie of it, and he's going to be directing it. Just talked to Andy the other day, called me, and we had known each other for a lot of years. Andy had, when we met, he was heading a production company for Bette Midler. And, Bette was trying to make productions with young comics and that kind of stuff. And he called me in and we met and we had mutual friends and we immediately hit it off and did a bunch of stuff over the years, improv and all kinds of stuff. And he called me up and he's like, "Kassir, I got this project for you. And right now the character's not really on the page," which was kind of my specialty. I was always hired for whatever's not on the page. How do we make this into something, but they love you. These guys saw you when they were in college. They saw you, in New York on the off-Broadway stage, seeing three guys naked from the waist down, which was about stand-up comics, with myself and Scott Bakula, and they had seen me in this production. And they were like, we wrote this part for John Kassir to play this guy who eats everybody at the end of the movie, And I was like, oh, Andy, I'm so busy. I'm doing 2 sitcoms and Tales from the Crypt. And he's like, listen, we're going to have a blast. This is so much fun. I'm going to send you the music. And, and I had the composer who were really talented, but not necessarily singers singing the music. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, I'll do it. And then I saw who they were assembling and the great cast they were putting together. And, shows like that just don't become hits in LA. They're, especially in a small theater, they run for a little bit of time and then they come and go. Well, this show ran on and off for over 2 years in LA, which was a big deal. And everybody wanted to be a part of it. I mean, we had people coming down, and Paul Abdul wanted to get involved and do choreography when we were going off Broadway. And, Fran Drescher wanted to take over a production of it. And what's his name? Doogie Howser.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right? I love him. He wanted to play Jimmy in the next production of it and all this stuff. And of course, our guys were like, no, we're going to keep it this small little thing right now. And we're going to
Patrick Harris. Yes.
Neil Patrick Harris. Thank you. Who's brilliant and would have made a fantastic Jimmy. Wanted to do it. And so finally they were, they got the money together to do it off Broadway, and not everybody, survived the move from the small theater in LA to get to do it off Broadway, because it costs money to bring people into town and, all this stuff. You don't have a big budget for off Broadway. And then, so we got to off Broadway, we started rehearsing, and sadly, 9/11 happened less than a week before we opened.
Oh gosh.
And, we still opened for the local people who were still in the city to come get out of their heads in this horror. I mean, it was a tough time. I was very proud of New York, the way, having lived in New York for a number of years, I was very proud of New York, how they handled it. But I when I look back on it, part of me wishes I hadn't been there. It was traumatizing, but, we had a lot of people, we'd have the people that were living in New York showing up, because obviously you weren't getting tourists, but you'd have the Hiltons show up on one night, and that kind of thing. Every night we had somebody in the audience, and so it was a lot of fun, but wasn't our best moment. And then they just decided they were going to make the movie and got the best cast together they could, and I was glad they included me, and they really beefed up the part of Ralph for me for the movie. And
as they should. Yeah. As they should. Ralph is like my favorite. I love it. I mean, down to the Letterman jacket. Obsessed.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
But we shot that in Vancouver. We had a blast shooting it. It was so much fun.
You can tell. You guys had a great time. So.
It definitely translated into it, right?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. So
I get a lot of messages from people who are in productions of it going, oh, we loved it so much. I played Ralph in my high school, or I played Ralph in the college, or I played a Ralph in my local, theater production. And, I get stuff every day from people that are involved in it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Fun music.
Well, on the topic of being on stage and improv and comedy, something I didn't know that I read about you on your Wikipedia page was that you appeared on stage with Robin Williams exchanging some improv bits. And I was just wondering if you could tell us, what was that like? Tell anything. I'm very curious.
Well, first of all, if you're working on stage with Robin, you just better be prepared to just follow whatever jet stream he was on. I had started. When I was in college, I had started in a comedy group. I've been one of the founding members of a comedy group called Animal Crackers. And we had a lot of success. We started in Baltimore in a dinner theater, and not a lot of people went downtown back then anymore for entertainment. But it had become like the thing to do on a Friday and Saturday night. And we wrote a new show every month, and get like the local weatherman or somebody like that to be our guest host, the same way Saturday Night Live did or whatever. And we had some great people on the show, and really talented, funny people. And so I had a background in, sketch comedy and improv, but I hadn't really done much stand-up when I was doing the musical Three Guys Naked from the Waist Down off-Broadway, which think Dreamgirls, but with stand-up comics. So it's a musical about three stand-up comics and then their rise into the TV industry. They're three kind of misfits that really click when they become a three-guy team. And like I said, Scott Bakula played the kind of quintessential MC. So it was so good. And Jerry Colker, who wrote the piece, played the guy who quit law school to become an angry comic. And I played, kind of like the, Andy Kaufman-ish, Gilbert Gottfried kind of guy whose only connection at all with life was to go on stage and do his bizarre Zen Catholic humor, was really kind of a lost kind of soul character. And it was a big hit off Broadway, and especially for my part, it really is the thing that launched my career from street performing and doing off Broadway theater and this kind of thing to people from all walks of the entertainment industry seeing me in this part. I'll never forget the night that my manager said, "Oh, somebody wants to meet you after the show." And I go out and there's somebody waiting in a limousine, and I opened it up the door and it was Lorne Michaels. And he's like, "Oh, you are a great young man. Someday we even have to audition you for Saturday Night Live," and blah, blah, blah. Of course, like a month later, he left Saturday Night Live. And the people that were there, I just had no contact with whatsoever. But and of course, he came back years later, a handful of years later, and here he is still doing it and running it. But it was a huge thing for me to meet somebody like that, but to do that kind of comedy and then move on into stand up, and then working at the Improv, because once I was doing that show, I got seen by the talent scouts for Star Search in its first season.
Yeah.
And they were like, "We want you to be on our show." And I go, "What's Star Search?" They go, "Oh, watch it. You'll see." And I watched, and they had, amazing singers, and all the comics were guys that were on tour and stuff. I mean, there was all, big comics that, weren't known yet, but they were the best guys in the clubs and that kind of thing. And I go, and because I was in a musical, I thought they wanted me to come on as a singer. And I go, "Listen, I sing, I'm in a musical, but I can't sing like Sam Harris, who was killing it on the show." I mean, they're like, no, we want you to come on as a stand-up comic. And I'm like, "Well, I'm not really a stand-up comic, as a part I'm playing in the show." They go, "Well, you can win $100,000. I'm like, "Fuck, have you seen my act?"
I'm a stand-up comic. Yeah.
I'm going to be working on it next week, So, I started out going back in through my, comedy Rolodex and remembering, oh, you know what? I'll have them roll me out on a dolly, and I'll do the bit that I did with an orange juice machine that I did with Fred in high school. And I'll do, The Wizard of Oz in 2.5 minutes. And I'll do, all this stuff. And of course I was doing all these voices and characters, not really, monology, so to speak, with jokes. And I think that's why I won, because I would come out each week and treat it like it was the 2.5 minutes of the John Kassir show. And so eventually, I of course got headliner spots at the Improv, and that's where Robin would come in. And very often you'd be ready to go on, and they'd be like, "You're getting bumped. You go on after the next guy." You're like, "All right, who is it? Billy Crystal? It's Robin Williams." I go, "Fuck, I gotta follow Robin Williams." He's like, "What? I gotta follow Robin Williams? I've only been doing stand-up a year, maybe not even a year at that point, And of course people were like, "Oh, it's John Kassir from," and by then I had put together an act, but then Robin would be like, hey, why don't you come on up? And, halfway through my act, Rick Overton will come up and, and you'll pop up with me and we'll do some, improv. And it was like, wow, for sure. But of course, Rick and I are in the background, we'd do like freeze tag and all these different improv games, but, Robin would be just off the hook funny. I mean, trying to keep a straight face while you're on stage with him was hard enough. He was just brilliant. He was just so fast. I mean, before you know it, you're sitting there going, wait a minute, he's doing my act. He was like, he didn't even know he was doing your act because you were standing next to him. He was just remembering your act and doing it. And you're like, oh my God, I can't do any of my act in front of Robin Williams. He'll steal it. He wouldn't steal it. He was just doing it in that moment. It was just like, so we'd be doing like the Lollipop Guild together or whatever, but it was, you have to know. It was something. It was a good lesson for me because very often you'd get an audition and be like, okay, you're going to audition for the new Carol Burnett show. And you go in to audition and you're doing, the Wizard of Oz for Carol Burnett in the room. Yeah. And she's like, oh my God, no, you should have your own show, and you're like, no, I know how to play second banana. I can play third, fourth banana,
Any banana.
Yeah, any banana. I'll play the peeled banana. I'll play the banana peel that you slip on. How's that? I can do whatever banana you want, but that's when you're, it's hard to like, pull yourself back to support what somebody else is doing. And, that's an important thing to learn as an actor and a comic, especially when you're in the, like I said, in the jet stream of somebody like Robin Williams. I mean,
oh my gosh,
wow.
To be a fly on the wall, like if I could, I bet that was so much fun. Man.
Hey, you didn't have to be a fly on the wall. Anytime you walked into the Improv, that could happen any night.
Oh gosh.
People would, jump up on stage and, I performed with some of the best of them.
Wow. Well, is it okay if we keep you for a few more minutes? I know we said 40 minutes, but is that okay, John?
Totally.
Okay.
My dear friend Dave Scheinkoff has his book release. He has Leslie Jordan is going to interview him at the bookstore. Leslie Jordan is gonna. David, you are. His book is called Village Idiot. And it's about him growing up in the village as a kid, and Dave Scheinkoff. And it's really, if you spent any time in the 80s in New York, it's got that kind of vibe to it too. So it's kind of cool. So I'm going to go down and support him tonight on that. But that's cool.
Awesome.
But yes, I have time. I do have some time.
If that's okay with you, we're going to play a quick game, John. So
okay.
This is a game of Would You Rather. There is no wrong answers.
Okay, good, because I'm too competitive otherwise.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Spoiler alert, you're going to win because you're the only one playing. So here we go. This is Would You Rather. So let's bring up the graphic and I'll read the first one. So would you rather see a crossover with Bubba Hotep or a crossover with Emotep?
Crossover with what? Tales from the Crypt?
Yeah. Mummy versus mummy of some sort.
Oh my God. That's really hard.
I know.
I mean, they're both such great, in that genre of mummies. You picked ones that are too close and too competitive. Okay, I'm gonna do Bubba Hotep just because he's always been more classic to me in that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Correct. You got it right. Okay. You win. All right, Ace, go for it.
Yeah. So would you rather be in a stage production of Rocky Horror or a stage production of Young Frankenstein?
Oh, definitely Young Frankenstein. Just because of the Frankenstein. Well, they're both Frankensteins, but Young Frankenstein. In fact, I did audition for Igor for the Broadway production. Did not get it, but yes.
Is that pronounced Igor or Igor?
Igor.
Igor. I love it. Okay, here's the next one. Would you rather be on an episode of Whose Line Is It Anyway or be on an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Curb Your Enthusiasm is awesome. I to play. That's more of an actor situation where you're getting almost real life scenarios and twisting them past the point of real life. So I think I did audition for that once. And they make you audition with Larry in the room.
God, that's
and,
awesome.
And they don't tell you what you're going to be auditioning. They give you a little slip of paper just before you go in.
Oh,
and so the little slip of paper they gave me was, okay, Larry has just hit your car. You get out of the car with a crowbar and you're gonna, you start cursing at him. You're going to beat him up and he feigns a heart attack and you give him mouth to mouth resuscitation. Now go, and it was tough because he's like over a head taller than me so I had to go like really violent to make it believable that I would have been the one, and Larry was like, okay, that was good. He was, I think he thought that I was so, committed to it that I might actually start giving him mouth to mouth. So he stopped me at that point.
Oh my God. Amazing. All right. Ace.
Okay, so this is mine. this is a personal question, if you will. Would you rather be reincarnated as a dog or reincarnated as a cat? And in this instance, we've got Cujo and Church.
Well, to be reincarnated as a cat would be cool because you get 9 lives. But I'd have to go with a dog because I could lick my own balls.
Oh my God, what a perk. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, we have to give a shout out to Ace's dogs who are in the background. They've been so good, Ace.
Yeah, Mila is over there sleeping, and then Rufus is the one that intermittently no one's seeing. But if you see me over here shaking his pillow, it's because he's snoring, licking, farting, chewing, some distraction. So I'm constantly over here.
More support of why you'd want to be reincarnated as a dog.
Yeah, well, that would be my pick.
What breed are they?
They are both pit bull type dogs. Mila is a American Staffordshire Terrier, and Rufus, who is off camera, is just a pit bull type mush street dog.
Yeah, I got 2 border collies, Emmett and Fig. In fact, if you look them up, they're on. I think they're on Instagram as Emmett and Fig, or Fig and Emmett. And it's my wife puts it up, and they're hysterical. Right now, they have a ball that's the size of one of those big cage balls we used to kick around doing crab soccer when we were kids.
Yeah,
it's called a collie ball because they have to herd it around the yard, and it's this huge big red ball that they push around. Let me see if I can find a video of it on my phone, but it's frigging hysterical. I'm not going to bore you with it now. That's like pulling out home movies of your kid. Hey, look at this! My wife changing my kid's diaper.
Oh yeah, I got one of those too.
I love that. How big do border collies get?
Like 35, 40 pounds. Some of them bigger, some of them smaller. They're not as big as like Lassie, but they're the dogs like you see on Babe.
Yeah.
So they're that size and they're so smart and they're, incredibly smart. Of course, along with intelligence comes neuroses if they don't get what they want and they don't have a job to do,
I'm the same way. Yeah. I love it. All right. Yeah. All right, we got a few more, John.
Great.
So here's the next one. Oh, would you rather have the Cryptkeeper rap battle Andy Samberg or see the Cryptkeeper rap battle Weird Al Yankovic?
Oh, definitely Weird Al. We have a past, so I think that would be fun.
Very fair. Okay. Good. Yeah. Good answer. So far, you're doing great. Okay. Ace, you want to do the next one?
Okay. So, would you rather do improv with the Marx Brothers or Laurel and Hardy?
Oh my God, that's like almost impossible. I played Shemp in the Three Stooges movie.
Yes.
Which was amazing. Which was an amazing, not only an honor, but just amazing, fun thing to do. And so since I got to do the slapstick stuff, which I would totally be the Harpo kind of guy. I think it would be fun to do with Laurel and Hardy because they just so more cleverly. do a little bit of the vocal kind of improv with those guys would be something fun to try.
Good choice. And okay.
Awesome.
Good, great, amazing. All right. So I think this is our last one. Oh no. Okay, so this is the final would you rather. Would you rather replace every curse word with the word Smurf or answer all questions with puns?
Oh, we'll definitely answer all questions with puns. Although since I played Crazy Smurf, I am probably going to get slapped by the producers for that one. But definitely the puns.
Good answer. Good answer. Well, thank you so much. You've been such a joy. Before we do let you go, we wanted to mention next week you're going to be appearing at Crypticon, which is in Seattle. And I know also I'm going to be seeing you very soon at Spooky Empire in June. So I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be
looking forward to that myself, kid.
Oh, I can't wait. So any final thoughts you want to leave us with here today?
Be careful what you ask for. You may get it.
Oh my God. This is everything I could have wanted and more. My face hurts from smiling so hard. But before we let you go, we're going to go over upcoming guests that we have coming up for the rest of the month and going into next month. So next week we have Constantine Merlis from American Idol. The following week we have the wrestler. His name is Matt. And then the week after that, we have the singer from Bowling for Soup. We're also welcoming back Ghost Hunter, Steve Gonzalez from the show Ghost Hunters, Ghost Nation. We also have Nicholas Wheeler from the All American Rejects. We have actor Andy McPhee. We also have John Elefante, welcoming back Jonah Ray from Mystery Science Theater. John, thank you so much again. And
thank
also,
you,
Ace, thank you too. This has just been so much fun.
Great to see you, Ace. Thank you, kid.
You too, John. So great to see you.
I hope to see you guys
great chatting
out there on the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, until we all meet again, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your night. We'll see you guys real soon. Bye, everybody.
Scream.